And a pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is a Kansas City Chiefs postgame instant reaction on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, and on our Facebook page at WIBW News. Our final one of the 2024 season following Super Bowl 59. A comprehensive performance by the Philadelphia Eagles, denying the Kansas City Chiefs what would have been a historic third consecutive Vince Lombardi trophy. Eagles 40, Chiefs 22, your final score from the Superdome in New Orleans tonight. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dzwierzynski is on the top row with me, and Spencer Dupuis is down below me on the screen. The 580 Sports Talk crew is together, intact, and ready to react to what we saw tonight in Super Bowl 59. And let's start here with a hello to everybody joining us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, on Facebook, WIBW News. Hello to everyone joining us live. Also a hello to all of the Eagles fans who are going to find this later and watch this later, because we know how this thing works. We know
we've
how
done
well
a few
traffic,
of these, Dan.
Yeah, we've done it. Not many for Chiefs instant reactions, but the ones we've done, we know how these go. So hello to Eagles fans in your revelry when you eventually come across this one. All right, let's start here. That sucked. We will begin with that from a Chiefs perspective. Good gracious. You know, there's an old saying that the scoreboard doesn't lie. That is the most lying-ass scoreboard I have ever seen after a football championship game. That was a beatdown of epic proportions tonight. And it goes to show you at the end of the day, you control the line of scrimmage, you control the football game. And the Eagles controlled the line of scrimmage from minute 1 to minute 60. And going back to the show I did on Thursday on 580 Sports Talk, when I went through the scenarios, the way I thought the game could unfold, when I talked about the possibility of a comfortable Eagles win, I said it'll probably going to involve a big game for Saquon Barkley. That didn't happen. We'll get there. But it would have to involve Jalen Hurts playing really well, but it would also have to involve total domination of the football game by the Chiefs by the Eagles defensive line against the Chiefs offensive line. And boy, howdy, did they ever. All due respect to Jalen Hurts, who we'll talk about. My MVP vote would have gone to Josh Sweat probably for this game. Unblockable, kind of was the Shaq Barrett of this game. And really, you could draw a lot of parallels to this game and the Super Bowl 55 loss for the Chiefs. Now, 2 losses in their 5 Super Bowl appearances over the last 6 years, and they both kind of felt the same. I mean, history, they say, doesn't repeat, but a lot of times it rhymes. And this game felt a lot like Super Bowl 55 in that 31-9 loss to Tampa, where it was evident right away that the Eagles were not going to give Patrick Mahomes a minute to breathe. They were going to be in his lap. They were going to be pushing offensive linemen into his lap, and they dominated the football game. They set the tone, and everything that unfolded from that point forward starts with Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, and Brandon Graham, and all of those guys up front. Nolan Smith dominated Juwan Taylor for the better part of the night. It was a tail kicking up front, and that's where football games a lot of times are won and lost. And this game was won by the Eagles and decisively lost by the Chiefs in the trenches. Brendan, your first thoughts on what we just saw tonight?
Yeah, so a couple of things just to follow up on what you had to say there, Dan. One, and this is not a shot at Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts was really good in the game. That last touchdown pass to Devontae Smith, I mean, you want to talk about, sorry to be grotesque here, you want to talk about dropping your nuts on the table. Oh, my Lord. Gutsy call by Sirianni and Kellen Moore. Perfect throw from Hurts. Jalen Hurts was good in the game. But if you had given me 3 votes, ranked choice voting, top 3, who I would have picked for MVP, Jalen Hurts doesn't make the podium. If we're being completely honest, I probably would have put Milton Williams number 1. I would have put Josh Sweat number 2. I would have put Cooper DeJean number 3. If you wanted to put Nolan Smith 4, if you got 4 picks, I wouldn't complain with that either. Criminal to not give the MVP, I think, to someone on the defensive side. And again, that's not a criticism of Hurts. I thought he played well That Eagles defense was just absolutely incredible throughout the course of the game. I'm sure we'll get to more on Mahomes in particular. He did not get a lot of help. I also thought that's probably the worst game he's played as a professional, to be honest with you. He was seeing ghosts by the second half. I mean, how often do you see Patrick Mahomes step into pressure? He's one of the least sackable quarterbacks that we've ever seen in NFL history. He was stepping into pressure instead of trying to bounce outside sometimes. It was kind of amazing to see in a negative way. A lot of comparisons, and Dan, you just drew it. It doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes when you're talking about history. I saw so many comparisons on social media between this night and Super Bowl 55, and when the Chiefs just got whooped by the Buccaneers, which led to Brett Veach the next offseason spending a boatload of money on Joe Thuney, going out and getting Orlando Brown, going out and getting Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the draft, completely rebuilding things. And I actually don't think I understand the comparison in terms of the Chiefs lost because their offensive line was terrible. But I think the big difference is that is an excuse in Super Bowl 55. Like, they started Mike Remmers. Dan, what do you like to call Mike Remmers between his Super Bowl 55 and 50 appearances? What's your nickname for him?
Two-time Super Bowl least valuable player, Mike Remmers.
There you go. You were starting him at tackle due to injuries. You had, I think it was Austin Ryder who got the start at center in that game. It might have been Austin Blythe. It was one of the Austins who started at center in that game. You had late stage Stefan Wisniewski. I mean, it was terrible. But those were all fringe roster guys you had to play due to all the injuries. Creed Humphrey is, we all consider on this program, the best center in the NFL. He wasn't great today. I know Joe Thuney was out of position. I understand that. But he was terrible. I mean, he was getting his ass kicked off the edge. Trey Smith, he's going to get paid because the guard market is crazy. But if it came down to, we want to see you in the Super Bowl before we pay you, he cost himself millions tonight because he was terrible. And Juwan Taylor was getting worked by Nolan Smith, like you said. I don't care that Mike Caliendo was in there, and I don't care that Joe Thuney was technically out of position, a position he's played, by the way, for 2.5 months at this point. You should never, ever have 62, 52, 65, and 74 play that badly. This is far more embarrassing than Super Bowl 55. Those were dudes who were lucky to be getting paychecks. These are dudes who are all considered at worst like top 10 to 15 at their position, and they got worked all night long by a good group, and all the credit in the world to the Eagles, but that group should never, ever look that bad. And they got worked all night, and that's why the Chiefs are going home with an embarrassing loss.
Yeah, it was a rough performance. The Eagles didn't have to blitz. Our Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, came on the show on Monday and said the whole ball game is the Eagles getting pressure with 4. If they can do that, they can win. If they can't, they won't. And they did, because they did not blitz in that first half. And they took a 24-0 lead and intercepted Mahomes twice anyway, because Mahomes had his own offensive lineman in his lap for the better part of that half, and indeed the rest of the game. Just a command performance by those guys. And of course, it doesn't work without the job on the back end. Howie Roseman fixed that Philadelphia secondary in one offseason. Like, that was the reason they didn't hit the heights of the previous season last year. This year, he goes out, gets Quinyon Mitchell, gets Cooper DeJean, who again had a MVP case.
Happy birthday to him, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding. Him and Saquon, man, that's a hell of those guys are gonna be turned tonight. They might be climbing up the poles like they like to do in Philly. They might be climbing some poles in Bourbon Street tonight. But the back end at Philadelphia was terrific, and just nobody could get open for the Chiefs throughout the night. Spencer, we've hit the high notes, but what's a big takeaway from you from this performance?
I want to double back on Brendan's one of his points, but I want to take the other side of the point. The Chiefs had to have known that at some point their patchwork offensive line was going to implode. You can't expect to bench your second-round left tackle, move a guy that's an all-pro guard outside of a position he hasn't played since college, and expect them to win against one of the best defensive lines in the game right now. And I think I don't know why they didn't at half. Why didn't Andy Reid at the second half move Humphreys back out to get Humphreys in the game and move Thuney back inside? Maybe that would have helped in the third quarter. You really don't know, but I think it all came down to who got the most pressure, and it was the Chiefs defensive line all day, every day. They were back there. They made Mahomes look like a third-string quarterback for a lot of this ball game, and he couldn't see anything. He had all that pressure, right? So he threw the ball out to 5 feet in front of the receiver he was trying to get to more than once. And I think the biggest takeaway is that at some point this was going to happen because they were playing a dirty game.
Yeah, you guys remember Cool Runnings? You ever watch that movie? Cool
Of course,
Runnings,
watch that in
the
school.
Jamaican
Yeah.
bobsled. Yeah, I've seen the movie many, many times. You know, they got their final run, and you can see like there's a bolt that's loose, and it's kind of rattling around, and the bobsled's flying, right? They're having a great run. They're picking up speed. Maybe they can medal. Maybe the Jamaicans can medal. But you see that bolt. They keep showing the bolt. It's about to rattle off, and they're going to lose a runner, and that's what the Tuni Caliendo left side of the offensive line was for the Chiefs. It was Chekhov's gun. It was the rattling bolt that it was good enough until it was absolutely unacceptable. And in this game, it was unacceptable because Caliendo couldn't get a body on anybody. Tuni got worked, and then it all kind of fell to pieces from there. Other side of the ball, really, Chiefs didn't play bad defensively in the first half. They gave up 10 points on the 10 points full field, the 7 on the pick six, and then the 7 on the short field after the Zach Bond interception. But really, I thought the Chiefs did some good things defensively. They wanted to take away Saquon Barkley. Clearly, that was the game plan for them. We're going to limit Barkley. We're going to take away his home run running plays, and they did that. Problem is that left him in some one-on-one situations on the outside, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown won those one-on-ones over and over and over again. Jalen Watson got cooked twice, including for what was really the death blow, that long pass to Devontae Smith after the fourth down failure midway through that third quarter. I guess late in that third quarter, game got short in a hurry. Yeah. It was a performance on defense that I think they came out with a good game plan, but it depended on holding up on the back end in man coverage. That's a hard thing to do against two elite wide receivers, and it's a hard thing to do with a quarterback who now we must say about Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. If you did not consider him an elite quarterback, you now have to look at his track record in big games where he has outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice in 2 Super Bowls. Now, Mahomes got him the first time around because made the plays in the fourth quarter and got down the field for the game-winning field goal, and the Eagles kind of ran out of time in that one. But you go look at the numbers. Hurts was the better quarterback in that game. He was damn sure by a sight the better quarterback in tonight's game. So Jalen Hurts, welcome to elite company. You've done something that everybody else in your peer group other than Joe Burrow has failed to do. Lamar doesn't have one of these. Josh Allen doesn't have one of these. Joe Burrow has a win over Mahomes, but he doesn't have one of these. Now Jalen Hurts has one of these. He has a Lombardi trophy, and he was outstanding. It was a virtuoso performance by that group, and as impactful as the Eagles pass rush was, the Chiefs pass rush never really got rolling. Lost Chris Jones to an injury. I think the game was probably functionally over by that point anyway, but it was dominance by that group up front for the Eagles as well. All the talk, Brendan, about the Eagles having a better 53-man roster, I think you saw the impact of that tonight. I thought if the Chiefs stars played like stars, it might be enough to overcome it. They did not, and it did not.
Yeah, you have a guy who in recent weeks, I think, as we've gotten closer to the off season and it's more apparent, like, okay, who's going to be, looking for who, and the new league year starts in a month and a half. Like before that, nobody was talking about Milton Williams, and a lot of like the, NFL podcast host bourgeoisie folks were like, hey, by the way, Milton Williams, everyone talks about Jalen Carter or the fact that Jordan Davis has never really taken off, but hey, Milton Williams is really good. Yeah, it turns out that a dude who's like DT2 probably for the Eagles is actually a superstar and is going to get so much money in the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks, however long it is until the start of the new league year. Like that dude, no one talked about him. And he is a stud. He's going to be a star for some other team wherever he ends up. Nolan Smith was kind of a cast-off at the start of the year. I know it was just his second year, but he's kind of small. He's really skinny for an edge rusher. He came on in the back half of the year, and it was, oh, yeah, by the way, this dude was a 5-star recruit who went to Georgia and was a first-round pick for a reason. Yeah, he's skinny. He also has incredible speed to power. Like, you just look everywhere you go, and there's all sorts of tremendous depth. There's top-end talent. It's truly incredible. The other thing, too, and yes, Jalen Hurts gets to take victory laps whenever he wants at this point because he's got the ring. Everybody, you got to have the ring, Well, he's got one now. All those other dudes who are battling against Patrick Mahomes every single year, those guys don't have one at this point, so he will always have that. But For the same reason I argued Saquon Barkley should not have been the MVP of the league. Glad he won Offensive Player of the Year this week. But the same reason I argued he shouldn't have been MVP is he had 5 dudes who may as well have been fortified steel walls in front of him. Jordan Mailata was brushing dudes off him like they were dirt on the shoulder in this game. Cam Jurgens was awesome. That entire offensive line, guys, it is insane. It's like the Hoover Dam out there blocking for these guys. Hurts had open running lanes. The Chiefs, in the competitive, quote-unquote, portion of the game early on, they never got any pressure on Jalen Hurts until it was like a 7-second play. Nobody was open, and then Hurts would just go scramble at the end of it. I mean, they weren't able to do anything. The depth for this Eagles team is crazy. It's not, it's not like the Cowboys that have, they've got CeeDee Lamb and Dak and Micah Parsons, really good top-end talent, but then nothing else. No, this Eagles team 1 through 53 is legit. They are certifiably great. And that showed up in this game today. The Chiefs, I probably did not give the Chiefs enough, or give the Eagles enough credit in saying the Chiefs needed to have their best game to be able to win. I still thought they would win this game. But if they're going to get pressure like that and cover like that defensively, and their offensive line is going to give Jalen Hurts all day when he struggles the most, when he's under pressure facing zone blitzes. And what were the Chiefs not able to do? Generate nearly enough pressure. Pretty easy to see how this game unfolded. And again, I'll repeat it again, and not just because eventually Eagles fans are going to come in here and take their victory laps. All the credit in the world to them, because they were the better team, the better coach team throughout this game, and they exposed a lot. You mentioned Jalen Watson. We haven't even touched a lot on him. We'll get to him on 580 Sports Talk Monday, I'm sure. The Eagles didn't take too many deep shots in this game, but the 2 deep ones they did take, to Jahan Dotson and then to Devontae Smith, who did they target? Hint, not Trent McDuffie. Keep the ball away from 22. Pretty smart strategy for an offense.
Spencer, it was a scheme masterclass, really, by Vic Fangio, the Philadelphia defensive coordinator. I can push back a little bit here on this, Spencer, and I want to hear your thoughts too. But Paul, the YouTube chat, we want to welcome everybody who's in the YouTube chat, as well as everybody who tried to jump in and say, you know what, like Lori said, I can't do this tonight. If you're a Chiefs fan, totally, we understand. Paul says Chiefs get clowned tonight. The result reflects as such. KC played like a team that had never been to a Super Bowl. Philadelphia was relaxed and aggressive. I don't think this comes down to anything intangible. I don't look at the Chiefs' effort and think, they got caught napping, or they got pushed around, or they were not up for the fight. No, man, they got out talented. This game
did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I talked about it, Spencer, this week, is the another old cliche, X's and O's versus Jimmys and Joes. The Chiefs might have the best Jimmy and or Joe in the matchup with Patrick Mahomes, but this was a triumph of all those Jimmys and all those Joes for the Eagles tonight.
Yeah, and one guy that I want to specifically point out, Zach Bond. Vic Fangio and that defense said, we're going to sign you. We're going to take your hand off the ground, and we're going to move you to linebacker. And he is in for a payday after he signed that 1-year contract last year. Coming out with that pick in this game tonight. I think that's one of those guys that has obviously proven himself all year, this year being an all-pro this year. But I think when it came to the Chiefs didn't get outworked, obviously, when it came to the D-line necessarily. They did one of the things that they were supposed to do. Stop Saquon Barkley. He averaged 2.3 yards a carry. That was a key for most of us to say, if Saquon Barkley finished 25 for 57, most of the times you're going to say, Chiefs are winning that game. But they didn't, because they underestimated Jalen Hurts. And I think that's what it comes down to is, you threw to that corner. They bit on. Excuse me. They didn't bite. They threw to the side. Obviously, that is not Trent McDuffie. That is the weak side when it comes to the corners. Right. It's the rotation all year. It's the rotation they had to go through all year. You had Najee Johnson out there at one point. You had Shamari Connor having to move out there at one. Like, just the rotation of guys. They knew where to throw the ball. They knew where the weakest links. They knew the weakest links of the Chiefs, and they took advantage of the weakest links.
Let's get a final thought here on this 580 Sports Talk instant reaction as we wait for the NFL to rig this game so that the Chiefs can win. Anytime, guys. Anytime we want to start doing that, that would be appreciated. I think that train might be a little late. Final thought for me. And we'll get to some broader, bigger picture stuff as we go along this week on 580 Sports Talk about the Chiefs and kind of where they go from here. But 728 days is a long time to be at the top of the NFL mountain. And that's how long it was from the Chiefs' Super Bowl win over the Eagles in Super Bowl 57 to their loss tonight. Still a remarkable run, even though it ended shy of what would have been Super Bowl era history. And now the Chiefs go from playing the game on easy mode, which they did in the early Mahomes years where they didn't have to pay him and they could build the roster around him. Then they were playing the game on, I guess you go from rookie mode to veteran mode on Madden, right? Where they're playing on veteran mode a bit because they hit the ball out of the park with that 2022 draft. And so many of those guys were so critical to this team over the last 4 years. Those guys start to get expensive now. Trey Smith might be walking out the door. Nick Bolton's got to get paid. It's Creed Humphrey's extension kicking in next year. So now you go from veteran, you go to all pro, you go to all pro mode. And this is where it maybe even gets harder for the Chiefs to sustain this. But big picture, you go into a season with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you feel good about your opportunities to do something like this. And the Chiefs put together an outstanding season and a historic run, being the first team ever to get to a third straight Super Bowl after winning back-to-back Super Bowls. They ran into a team that had more talent than they did, that whooped their ass for 60 minutes tonight. And all you can do about that one is tip your cap. Brendan Dzwierzynski, final thought.
Yeah, I mean, better team won Super Bowl 59. I mean, when you want to, you can break down so many different things, but in the end, the team that had a better game plan, the team that was better coached, and the team that executed better won the game. And that's what the Eagles did. Spencer, you're 100% right. The Eagles identified the Chiefs' weaknesses or potential weaknesses, and they attacked them over and over and over again. So all the credit in the world to the Eagles. I do think it is important to note, though, and I'm not trying to make this into a moral victory thing because I do not believe in moral victories. That being said, no team on the precipice of a three-peat has ever actually had the chance to go and do it. Nobody has ever gotten to that point. And still, we have not had a three-time back-to-back-to-back NFL champion since the Packers of the 1960s. I understand that. But still, to get to this point, it is remarkable. So ignore some of the jokes that you're going to see on social media around the talking head shows or whatever. This was still a great year for the Chiefs. It was still great to get to the Super Bowl, even if they got whooped in the big game. That being said, definitely some soul searching that's going to happen this offseason. Dan, you mentioned the guys that are going to have to get paid, the guys that are probably walking out the door. And we probably should note as well, especially after James Palmer, formerly of NFL Network, put on Twitter this weekend that Travis Kelce got very emotional during his pregame speech, and there are people in the facility who are not so sure that Travis Kelce will be back in the future as well. Not reporting anything, just saying what James Palmer put out there, and he's very well connected with Kansas City. I mean, there's a lot of things this Chiefs team is going to have to figure out. This is a great team. This is a dynasty team. There's no taking that away, but you have to evolve or you are going to die. The Chiefs now have to find a way to evolve going forward after, frankly, being humbled in front of the whole world at Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, he gave up a 40-piece in the Super Bowl, man. That doesn't wash off easy. Spencer, final thought.
I think that tonight's game looked better than it was. You said this from the top. Tonight's game on the scoreboard, when you look at the score, it looks better than it was the entirety of the game. And I think all that goes to you need to establish the run. They had 24 rushing yards total from running backs. And if the Chiefs can't establish a run, then you can't finish the game. Like, you can't portray your whole game plan out, right? So I think for them is not only did the Eagles disrupt their weak links, but I don't think they fulfilled their whole game plan. And you can't win a game when you don't fulfill your whole game plan. And nobody's done it yet because maybe it's not meant to be done. So
that'll be a wrap on this instant reaction after Super Bowl 59. One more time, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, the champions of Super Bowl 59, 40-22 over the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll have plenty more to say about the aftermath of this one, as well as a Sunflower showdown from Saturday on tomorrow's 580 Sports Talk. Join us from 3 to 6 tomorrow afternoon on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 in Topeka, and on these same video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. Lots of post-mortem to get to from this game and throughout the week. And then, you know what else happens this week? Pitchers and catchers report. So we've got lots more to discuss as we go along on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being here with us to perhaps drown a few sorrows. For Spencer Dupuis, for Brendan Dzwierzynski, I am Dan Lucero, bidding you all a pleasant good night. We will talk to you tomorrow afternoon on another edition of 580 Sports Talk.